What's up, my comic comrades? With Morbius now in theaters, we know that many of you are curious about the film's villain, Loxias Crown. In the movie, the character is played by Matt Smith, and today we're going to take a look at the character in comics and find out how the two match up. But before we get started, we want to thank Keeps for sponsoring today's episode. As I know all too well, 2 out of 3 guys experience hair loss by the time they reach 35 years old. So if you're looking to prevent your hair sickles from taking an early vacation, you need to get yourself set up with Keeps. Just go to keeps.com/variantcomics and start by setting up a time to talk with one of Keeps' licensed doctors online and get your consultation without ever having to visit a doctor's office. Using Keeps' clinically proven research-backed process to stop hair loss and improve hair growth, your Keeps physician will help you choose the right products and treatments for you. Next, you'll skip the lines at the pharmacy as well, because your treatment will be delivered right to your front door every 3 months. And as an added bonus, you'll get an extra 50% off your first order just by using our link. Anyway, once you get your treatments in hand, all you have to do is follow your prescribed plan and start tracking your progress. But you don't want to procrastinate, because the sooner you get started with Keeps, the sooner you'll start seeing results. Keeps will also have your back all along the way with 24/7 access to their network of expert medical advisors, prescribers, and care specialists who will answer any questions you might have. So join the hundreds of thousands of men who already trust Keeps for their hair loss prevention, because hair loss stops with Keeps. Just go to keeps.com/variantcomics or click our link in the description to get 50% off your first order of hair loss treatment. Again, that's keeps.com/variantcomics. You can thank us later. So without further ado, let's get into it. Loxias Crown was created by Howard Mackie and first appeared in Spider-Man issue 76 in November of 1996. I do want to say, like many of the Marvel villains hitting the big and small screen lately, Crown A.K.A. Hunger doesn't have a deep comic book history to draw from. So a lot of what we'll see from his live-action adaptation will likely be completely new to the character. But let's see what the comics do give us to draw from. Loxias Crown was an agent of Hydra. Hail Hydra. And as a Hydra agent, he tracked down the Empire State University scientist named William Fields on Christmas Eve of all days. Who does that? Anyway, we see this play out in Spider-Man issue 76, where Spider-Man narrates saying the past 7 years ago on the campus of Empire State University, the laboratory of Professor William Fields. Simultaneously, we see William say to his wife and son, "Sorry guys, I'll only be a few more minutes. Just 1 or 2 more notes and I'll be done for the balance of the Christmas vacation." His wife replies, "Take your time, Will. Todd and I are fine. We're more than willing to wait now if it means we get you for Christmas Day. Right, Todd?" Todd replies, "Yeah, Dad, it's cool." William's wife then says, "William, you had better come here. Someone just came in the door." William then turns around saying, "Who, the devil? No, not you," as we see the silhouette of 3 men, one of which has glowing eyes. Of course, this man is Crown, and he says, "Ah, I see you do remember me, Dr. Fields. It's been so long. I was afraid that you might have forgotten. You know why I am here. By the way, lovely family you have." Fields then says, "Marjorie, take Todd. Run, now." Crown then says, "Come now, doctor. Where can they run to? They do not have to be hurt. Just give me which is rightfully mine." But Fields starts running with his family as Crown says, "Look, he's running away. Was I talking for my own good?" as he tells his men to stop them. They then shoot him with some sort of gun, and Crown says, "I said stop them, not to incinerate them. Kill them, and you die." We then see Fields and his family are hiding as he says, "Marjorie, you've got to take Todd and run." She says, "Not without you." He tells her, "You've got to." He then pulls out a book and says, "I need you to take this book. It contains coded notes of all my work. You give it to Sidney Lanning. He'll know what to do with it." She asks, "What about you?" He says, "There's too much of my work here that this man cannot be allowed to get his hands on. I'm going to destroy it, and then I'm out of here. Now go." As his family escapes through a window, he tells his son, "Todd, I'm counting on you. Take care of your mother. Remember, son, sometimes we can't think about ourselves. We've got to do what is right for the greater good. Sometimes we've got to be heroes, just like that guy you're holding in your hand." Just as Fields' wife and son are about to go down the fire escape, they get blasted with something, causing an explosion and them to fall off the fire escape. The son luckily lands in snow, and when he gets up, he says, "Mom, Dad," as he looks at the fiery building. Crown then stands in the wreckage saying, "See me, boy. Remember me. Your father is gone, but I will remain to walk through your nightmares forever. We will meet again, boy, and I will claim that which should be mine. Remember," as Crown disappears. The comic then brings us to the present 7 years after Crown and fellow Hydra agents killed William Fields and his wife. And we see that Crown isn't done with ESU. Nope, he actually came back there and took Dr. Sidney Lanning and several other scientists hostage. But students Neil Aiken and Peter Parker go to investigate to see what's going on. As Crown is holding the scientists hostage, we see an unstable energy generator built by Fields as Crown tells Lanning to hand over the generator and the notes that Fields told his wife and son to give to him. And if he didn't, well, he would kill them all. But Lanning is still holding strong, so Crown says an example needs to be made if we're gonna get out of here tonight. Kill the 2 who just came in, referring to Parker and Aiken. But luckily Parker and Aiken were able to get away. But come on, since Peter Parker got away, that gave him time to change into his Spider-Man duds, and before Crown could make any more demands, Spider-Man came barging in ready to take Crown out. But Spidey wasn't the only one there who was trying to save the day. Nope, we also see some purple hero burst into the room to save the day. Crown says, "Shock, no, this is impossible. It cannot be him because I saw him die." Well, kill him again. Kill them all. At this point, this mysterious hero Shock teams up with Spider-Man and they take down Crown, throwing him and his thugs into a special rift, which stops him from bathing in the generator's energies that would have granted him phenomenal power. Now, some of you guys are like, that's all fine and dandy, Arris, but who the heck is Shock? Well, we later find out that Shock is actually William Fields' son, Todd Fields, and he used the same technology that killed his father to become the superhero known as Shock. And obviously he arrived to take down Crown when he finally returned all those years later because he wanted his revenge for killing his parents. And Shock isn't just a name, it's an acronym that stands for Subdimensional Human-Based Oculotechnic Conduit. Now at this point you may be wondering, how does this all pertain to Morbius? Isn't he a Morbius villain? And yes, he is, but he's also a Spider-Man villain. The short of it is, after Spider-Man and Shock defeated Crown, he would return, and this time, he abducted Morbius, the living vampire. Why did he do this, you ask? Because he wanted to perform experiments on him. This all leads to Spider-Man and Shock teaming up once again to stop Crown, and a moment where we see Crown fighting Hammerhead, who he ends up defeating, after which Crown then tried to destroy an entire building with Dark Force energy. In fact, Crown probably would have won this time, as he had Spider-Man and Shock on the ropes. But Morbius was like, nah dude, I'm free now, and it's payback time. So Morbius proceeded to attack Crown while the building was destroyed around them. And I'm not just talking about punch and beat up Crown, no, Morbius drained Crown dry and disappeared with him in the process. What happened to Crown, you ask? Well, what happens to vampires when they attack you? They turn you into a vampire. So Crown, who was now a living vampire himself, went by the name Hunger and began living in the sewers beneath the city. And this right here is why Crown is showing up in the Morbius movie. If Morbius never attacked Crown in the comics and turned him into a living vampire himself in the comic books, we would have never gotten Crown in the Morbius movie because it wouldn't make any sense. Anyway, now a living vampire who again goes by the name Hunger, he would kidnap and abduct people and then keep them in his lair beneath the city. Which doesn't sound like a good time. I would not want to be held captive by a living vampire in the sewer, nonetheless. Now a vampire himself, Crown would of course come into more confrontations with Spider-Man, but also the Daywalker himself, Blade. And I gotta say, I dig the name Hunger. It makes total sense for a vampire. With all that said, friends, that is the backstory of Loxias Crown in Marvel Comics, from his first appearance to how he became a vampire himself. Now let's take a look at his powers and abilities. As a living vampire who was turned by Morbius, Hunger has all the powers of a pseudo-vampire. What that means is he's not a true vampire in the traditional sense, as the source of his transformation is scientific and not supernatural. For instance, a true vampire is unable to see his reflection in the mirror, but he can, because again, supernatural, scientific, two different things. With that understood, he more or less has the same power set that Morbius has. This includes superhuman strength, speed, stamina, reflexes, agility, and senses. He also has his vampire fangs and claws along with a pretty good healing factor. And similar to a true vampire, Hunger has the ability to transform other people into pseudo-vampires by draining them of their blood. And once he's turned someone into a pseudo-vampire, he could bend them to his will. But with that covered, guys, let's take a look at some reading recommendations. So this is not going to be complicated because, as I mentioned earlier, he hasn't appeared in many comic books. But you'll need to check out Spider-Man issue 76, 79, and 80, as well as Peter Parker Volume 2, issues 4 and 7. That should be more than enough to get you guys started. And that's gonna bring today's episode to a close, but if you enjoyed this episode, check out this one right here. And if you like all of our content, subscribe, like, and comment, helps us out. But other than that, I'll see you all next time when I talk about all things comics.